equipped lifting and powerlifting. I was a multiply lifter in powerlifting for over a decade. I've got a lot of experience in it. I think some of the most important things that you can focus on that often get lost in transition is building a very solid and firm foundation in raw strength. If you do not have a massively strong infrastructure that involves raw strength, you are going to have a lot of trouble when it comes to using and manipulating and getting benefit out of powerlifting gear. It's too common, the thought process that when someone transitions over to multiply lifting or even single ply lifting, that usually the first thought is, how much can I get out of my gear? How much can I squeeze out of my gear? As opposed to, what can I add? What can my gear add to what I already have? How much can I tweak my bench shirt? How far can I pull the chest plate down? How far can I pull the sleeves down over my triceps? How tight can I get my collar? How tight can I get my straps on my squat suit? How much gear can I pack on to squat? Canvas suit, 3-ply, 4-ply briefs. How tight can I get those straps on that squat suit? How tight can I get my deadlift suit? How many layers I can get on my deadlift suit? It is one thing to be strong. It's another thing to display it. Louis Simmons. If you take somebody who is a very, very strong raw squatter and you put them into gear that is too tight, or let's say, for example, you put the straps on way too tight, you are immediately handicapping that person. When they start to descend, they cannot sit back, which is very important in equipped lifting. You should have a vertical shin angle. But if their equipment is too tight, they don't have anywhere to go but forward. So you're already handicapping them, and the whole lift is this struggle to be able to transition to their hips, moving back and actually just squatting through their hips with a vertical shin angle. When the straps are too tight, the only place you can go is forward. And then you are already, once you descend, or even when you unrack that weight, a timer goes off. You only have so long to sit with that weight on your back and still be able to display maximal strength. So the more time you spend under a maximal load fiddling with your technique and trying to readjust, your chances of completing that lift deteriorate very fast. So if you spend a couple seconds traveling forward before your hip crease even changes, you are already diminishing the amount of weight that you are going to squat. Why don't you take the approach of, I'm only going to put as much tightness into my straps as I can without it messing with my technique. My raw strength, the work that I did raw, is what's going to carry me through. If you have those straps just tight enough to where it gives you some support and it is adding to your already huge raw base, as soon as you unrack that weight and you descend, you are moving through your hips, you're at depth, boom, squat, go. You know what I mean? There's a huge difference between 2 to 3 seconds under maximal load and 5 to 6 seconds under maximal load. If you can get from A to B quickly and then back up to start with squat, your chances of hitting a PR rapidly increase. So like I said, it's one thing to be strong, but it's another thing to display it. If you take somebody who is quite capable of squatting, let's say 800 pounds with loose to medium straps, and you go to them on meet day and, hey, we're gonna jack these straps down as much as we possibly can. And then when they miss 800 pounds, everybody's so confused as to why that person who could squat 800 pounds very easily couldn't do it on meet day. Your gear should only add to what you can do. It shouldn't, your gear shouldn't be your main weapon. It should just add to your arsenal. Equipped lifters fall into this trap so many times of, I need to squeeze as much as my gear out as I possibly can at the expense of my technique. Same with bench shirts. Come meet day, everybody wants to jack that collar down as far as they can. Everybody wants to slide that tricep seam down as far as they can, making it almost impossible to move the weight. And by the time you get halfway down on that bench press and you still have to touch, you still have to lift less, and you have already given up all of your technique, and then the only real option you have left is to dump the weight towards your belly and hope that it doesn't fall over your belly, and then hope you could actually reverse it back and press it up. Same with deadlifts. People want to put their straps so tight on deadlifts to where they can't even get to the bar. And then if they do miraculously somehow get to the bar, their hips are generally going to be so far out of position that when they actually try to lift it, it's going to be so much lower back, and the weight is going to be so far out in front of them, they can't even budge a weight off the ground that if they were just to have light straps, they could do with ease. So it's one thing to be strong, it's another thing to display it. Don't get into that realm of handicapping yourself with something that is supposed to accentuate your strength. The goal of gear is to just add as much gear incrementally over the meets, over the years, over the training, to where it is a slow process of rising up. Only add as much gear, only add as much resistance from that gear as still allows you to display your strength, still allows you to display your technique. If you take this approach, it may take you a couple extra years, but in those couple extra years, you will advance so much further. So let's say you decide you just want to go gangster with your gear. Yeah, you might get lucky and hit, like, let's say your goal is to squat 900 pounds. If you just decide to go gangster with your gear and you do a couple meets of, I'm just gonna wear this gear as tight as possible, and I'm just gonna pray that on meet day I find a way to get to depth, you might get to that 900 pound squat with just a stroke of luck and genius in a year or two. But if you take a gradual, slow approach to adding gear and adding tightness of the gear and layers of the gear, it may take you another year to get to that 900, but you will also be able to get to 950, 1000, 1050, 1100, 1150 with that slow approach to slowly adding a little more gear, a little more tightness. But if you just come out the gate with as much gangster gear as you can put on, you are really limiting your longevity in the game. So if you want to get into equipped lifting, multiply lifting, your number one priority should still be a foundation of raw strength. And the next couple of years is learning how to implement your gear into that base of raw strength. So those are my thoughts on multiply lifting. I hope they help.